Om Ajnanmirandasya Jnanam Janashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Shrishtam Manumapi Satchiputram Atra Swarupam Rupam Tasyagrajam Rupurim Mathurim Goshtavatim Radha Kundam Girivaramaho Radhika Madhavasam Prapto Yasya Pratitha Kripaya Shri Gurum Tam Natosmi Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha Nikhila shruti mali ratnamaladhyate nirajita padapankajanta Aji mukta kulairupashyamanam paritastvam harinam samshrayami anarpita charim chirat karunayavatirna kalho samarpaitum unnatoj sabhakti shriyam Hari Purata Sundara Dhyuti Kadamba Sandipitaha Sada Hridaye Khandare Spurato Vasachinandanaha Ajanulambita Bhujo Kanakavadato Sankirtanai Kapitaro Kamalaya Taksho Vishwambaro Dhyavaro Jugadharma Palo Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavataro Ladini Shakti Swarupaya Gauranga Suhridaya Cha Bhakta Shakti Pradhanaya Gadadhara Namostute He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Radhe Vrindavanadishe Karunamrita Vahini Kripaya Nijapadabja Tasyam Maham Pradiyatam Bhaktya Vihinaya Paradhalakshay Kshiptascha Kamaditarangamadhye Kripa Maidvam Sharanam Prapanam Brinde Namaste Sharanarabindam Brinde Namaste Sharanarabindam Shri Sachinandan Gaur Hari Ki Jai Shri Harinam Prabhu Ki Jai Gaudiya Vaishnav Guru Parampara Ki Jai Samaveta Bhakta Vrind Ki Jai Gaur Premanand Hari Hari Bol So, pranam to all of you. Good morning. Thank you so much for being here today. Those connected online as well, welcome. So, so today we are continuing with a series of lectures that somehow we inaugurated yesterday morning, speaking of what is Anartha-nivritti really, right? So yesterday we had an introductory lecture where we were asking many of you also what's Anartha-nivritti, definitions of Anartha-nivritti. We say getting rid of bad habits or these different related things. And then we went to the I remember Anna also said Anartha-nivritti being a process, an ongoing process that will be with us considerably for some time. It's not something that, as we may think when we see these stages of 9 chapters of Bhakti defined by Rupa Goswami from Shraddha to Prem. He says Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana, Kriya, Anartha-nivritti, and then comes Nishta, Ruchi, Shakti, Bhava, Prem. So after Anartha-nivritti comes Nishta, one may think, oh, okay, Anartha-nivritti is gone. I'm in Nishta now. But no, Anartha-nivritti continues throughout Nishta, Ruchi, Asakti, even Bhava to some degree. So getting rid of false values will be the idea of Anartha-nivritti. That's the meaning of Anartha-nivritti. Artha means value. Anartha means false value. We are ascribing value to something that has not. Well, there is actually a positive value, but we may be just confronting a false side of that, a distorted picture of something which has real value. We were giving yesterday the example of a counterfeit money. Now, that there is counterfeit money doesn't mean that there is no actual money. So that there is Anartha means we are just getting a distorted picture of the real thing. So Anartha-nivritti, getting rid of false values or false beliefs, is all about getting the right picture or the right idea or the right conception, so we can practice with a realistic, coherent, relatable, relevant orientation to bhakti. We used the word sambandha yesterday also. Sambandha is our conceptual orientation, which is the knowledge that guides my actions. And those actions will take to a certain fruit. Sambandha, videya, prayojan. A certain theory, certain like cosmovision, certain worldview, certain paradigms that guide my life, take me to live bhakti, to live my life with certain orientation, and that takes to a particular result. So to Anartha-nivritti is a process, not only, as we say yesterday, it's not just the automatic byproduct of bhajana kriya. It's not that I just chant or serve or do whatever I do in terms of bhakti, and Anartha-nivritti is just the consequence of that. It is on some level, as we say, by practicing we are getting rid, even without our awareness, of layers of stuff, but also there is an intentional aspect to Anartha-nivritti where we are invited to be mindful and voluntarily invest our attention in what may be getting in the way of my progress and how to clarify that. There has to be some discernments, some intentional vigilance. We used the word tapas yesterday, fire, introspection. We are invited all to be as introspective as we can be, as sincere as we can be. And then for Anartha-nivritti will be seen as an ongoing, let's put it this way, an ongoing effort to unlearn false values. Let's put it that way. There's a lot of unlearning to do in bhakti. As we say many times, we come with our own misconceptions before bhakti, and then we acquire our own misconceptions in the context of bhakti. We come with our own unresolved trauma to bhakti, and we acquire new trauma in the context of bhakti. We come with our own anarthas before connecting with bhakti, and we sometimes develop anarthas in the context of bhakti. Not because bhakti is creating anarthas, but our misreading of bhakti may create those anarthas. So it's important to be open to be humble enough to acknowledge, maybe I may be doing something of that. Even if I'm not doing it, at least to remain open to acknowledge when that's happening. That's basic humility and sobriety. Not have this toxic certainty that I'm sure I'm doing everything perfectly. I have no misunderstanding ever. I don't need to unlearn anything. Maybe if you're saying that, by itself, that shows that there is something to be unlearned. So anyhow, we were exploring that and making a brief summary of what we were doing yesterday, not only for those who were not able to be here, but especially for those who were present here. So we need to remind ourselves. And then we concluded yesterday's meeting going to how interestingly both Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Bhaktivinoda Thakur define Anartha-nivritti in their corresponding works. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his Madhurya Kadambini, which is an analysis of these 9 stages, when he gets to Anartha-nivritti, that's the stage he describes in more detail, interestingly, because again, for some reason we need to become aware of what's going on there. And he describes Anartha-nivritti in 4 subcategories: Sukritota, Duskritota, or Duskritota, Suskritota, Aparadota, Bhaktiota, which are 2 pairs of opposites. Anarthas can come from impious action and from pious action, Duskriti, Sukriti. Anarthas can come from aparad and bhakti. The Sukriti and Duskriti are the opposite of one another. Aparad and bhakti are the opposite of one another. But he says from all of that you can, because of anarthas, you can engage in them, or as a result of dealing with that, you can develop some anarthas. You can engage in bhakti, again, in a distorted way, that creates some anarthas. You can be a very pious person, but do that from a place that creates an anartha. Again, not for anyone to go neurotic, but his point is, let's be careful, guys. Anarthas, false beliefs, false values can come from anything. From the things that are clearly impious, offensive, but from the things that are virtuous and divine and transcendental, if we don't have the proper approach to that. So it's a call for vigilance. That's how he describes Anartha-nivritti. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his Bhajana Rahasya, he describes Anartha-nivritti also in 4 categories, different 4 categories, another perspective. And the first of those 4, which is the one we concentrated upon yesterday, was Tattva Vibhrama, which means basically to be bewildered about reality, to be confused, to not get it clear what is what, to get, again, a wrong, false belief, false value, to ascribe false value to something. And then he subdivides Tattva Vibhrama in 4, to be bewildered about the truth about the soul, the truth about God, the truth about the means and the goal, bhakti, and the truth about even the material energy. Interestingly, he begins with us. To not know who you are, to have confused, distorted, toxic, dysfunctional ideas about who we are, that's an anartha. So we get to get rid of those anarthas. Anarthas are not just, you have lust, you have anger, you have greed, you have envy, the official capital sins, so to say, right? Yes, also, but there are many more in between all those, or expressions of all those, if you will. So it's important that we become aware of those, because if we are not aware that those things can be an anartha, we may be indulging in them without seeing them as such. I may deceive myself thinking, oh, this is sign of advancement, and actually it's an anartha that I need to get rid of, so to say. So, and I concluded yesterday saying that because we will be basing our remaining 4 classes on a section from my recent book, Evolution in Divine Love. And my book is divided in 4 chapters, 1 related to love, 1 to God, 1 to the soul, and 1 to material energy. And I'm realizing that Bhaktivinoda Thakur is describing anarthas in those 4 categories, to have false beliefs about, again, the soul in different order, but the soul, God, love, bhakti, and material energy. So, as I told you, what I was thinking is, as a way of exploring together some of the possible misreadings that there may be there, consciously and unconsciously, in each one of these 4 departments, love, God, soul, matter. I was thinking about going through a section of my book. Each one of the chapters finishes with one section called, I told you yesterday, key paradigm shifts. No? So again, Anartha-nivritti is unlearning false values. Another way of saying unlearning false values is acquiring a paradigm shift. changing our perspective, acquiring a new vision of certain things that we may be seeing from a certain way, and it's not that, it may be correct, but it can be exploring more nuance and in more detail. I can have it correct. I can have it correct, like, okay, Krishna is God. Okay. But in which way, all the details between that, I may not have that correct. So I may have a correct idea, but the details about that correct idea may not be that correct as well. So we'll try to enter into the details of all that and try to keep that awareness that we are talking about things that are interrelated. Love, God, soul, and matter. And we say yesterday, a misunderstanding in one may take us to a misreading of the rest. Like Prabhupada will say, you start adding numbers, you add the first two wrong, the end result may be wrong, even if you added all the rest properly. So it's important that we can be as much as aware as possible to embrace a coherent paradigm of devotion. So what I'm thinking, each chapter, as I told you, has some paradigm shift. This has 9. So I'll try to go through each of them and share a few reflections. And today in the evening, maybe not so much in the morning, I don't know if we will have time, but in the evening we'll have Q&A, quest and exploration. So you will be invited to bring any questions or doubts or thoughts or anything you may have. Okay, for those who would like to check, those will be in page 35 of the book. Yeah. So, I mean, I won't be reading so much from the book just in case, but you can check it there. So the first chapter of my book is about love. Another way of speaking about bhakti, which is the means and the goal for us. Bhakti is the practice, bhakti is the goal, right? Swami will say sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti, prema bhakti. But always the word bhakti is there always. Since the beginning day to the end goal, Bhagavatans say bhaktya sanjataya bhaktya. Bhakti comes from bhakti, bhakti takes to bhakti. It's all about bhakti. We are bhakti fanatics, so to say. So the first paradigm shift that I mentioned in my book, that again may not be a paradigm shift for some of you, but for some of us may be, is first of all a coherent definition of love. So I will read just the brief sections and then we will explore it together. So the first key paradigm shift exploring my first chapter says a coherent definition of love. While the term love is often invoked, probably it's one of the words we most use, everyone most uses, it remains poorly understood. A more comprehensive and evolving definition is necessary, one that accommodates love's infinite capacity for growth and change. So let's stop there, no? Before going to the next ones. So we are talking about love today, about bhakti, about devotion. But we need to know what we are talking about. Again, I can say love so many times per day, but sometimes people will say, I love Krishna, I love chocolate, I love my dog, and I love rain. And I get it. I agree that you love all those things, but what do we mean by love? Do we mean the exact same thing? How to define love? So I think it's important that we learn to define things, to have a foundational basis. Because if not, love can be just a word, or I may have a wrong idea of love. And love is one of the words we use the most. Sometimes they say the word we use the most sometimes are the ones we understand the least. Some word that we use the most is I. Many times we don't have a very clear picture of who am I, right? So we may need to spend some time with the word I. Who am I? What's a coherent definition of I? What's a coherent definition of love? So we are beginning with love because for me, and not for me, but for our tradition, love is the source of everything, the most powerful thing, the goal of life, as we'll see in a minute, not only for us, but even for Krishna. Krishna is always pursuing new depths of love. So love is the center of reality, let's put it that way. So that's why my book starts with love, and then comes God. Let's begin with love, God, soul, matter. So so yeah, it's important to define love, because if not, we may just get stuck with some sentimental idea, or misread love as codependency sometimes, or just I love my guru, and maybe sometimes I'm just trying to fit in, or I'm just idolizing someone. But what's real love, right? We don't want to use the word love cheaply, basically. We don't want to downgrade the most noble, dignifying thing, love. So, so one aspect of Anartha-nivritti is to strip away false notions, false beliefs on love, and get at least a coherent definition right. Maybe we may be far away from realizing that fully, but at least let's have the definition right? So, and our tradition has a definition, so I'm not here now revealing you the actual definition, which is my own creation. I mean, my book, I define love in certain ways, in one way, based on a definition of love, which is the one that Rupa Goswami gives in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, when he describes Uttam Bhakti, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.1.11. Anyavilasita shunyam jnana karmadi anabritam anukulena Krishna anushilanam bhakti uttama. We will need 3 years of retreat to explore that verse. We don't have the time here today. But we'll say something, of course. No? We touched upon that the other day when we say yesterday, Sarvopadi Vinirmuktam, because Rupa Goswami composed that his verse on the basis of that verse. Sarvopadi Vinirmuktam tat paratvena nirmalam hrishikena hrishikesha sivanam bhakti ruchate. Which basically is, and these two verses have their own parallels. Again, I won't go there. It may take too much time. But Sarvopadi Vinirmuktam anyavilashita sunyam. No? And we will find the parallel things like getting rid of false values, getting rid of separate interest, getting rid of a self-centered agenda. That's a negative way of defining love, right? What love is not. Many times we need to start there. In Latin, they will call that via negativa, which means you describe something by saying what that something is not. And that's what Krishna does in the Bhagavad Gita, right? When he speaks about the soul, he starts saying what we are not. The soul doesn't die, it's not born, it's not burned, it's not dried. This is not, it's not. And then when it comes the moment of saying who we are positively, Ascharya about 3 times. You're wonderful, the soul is wonderful. But he starts saying who we are not, like debunking false beliefs first, clearing the ground to put the seeds on the soil. So these definitions of love start similarly. What love is not. Anyavilasita sunyam jnana karmadi navritam. Uttam Bhakti, pure Bhakti, is not, it's free from all selfish desire, self-centeredness, narcissism, not pursuing jnana, karma for its own sake, the fruits of sense enjoyment and knowledge, or even liberation, but it's love for its love's own sake. So then comes the second part, Anukulena Krishna Anusilanam Bhakti Ruttama. I say practical engagement with our senses and all our faculties are directed for Krishna's pleasure. So I've in my book, I've kind of rendered that verse, and I've said that, what did I say? Let me see. I have the definition somewhere here. How did I define? I think I have it somewhere. Oh yeah, it's here. Love is a profoundly intentional disposition, and each word counts here. It's intentional. Again, it's not co-opted. It's not like I'm pointing to a gun with you and it's love God, love me, love that. This has to be voluntary, intentional. And it's a disposition in the sense that it's not just an act. It's an act. It can be an act, but it can be also a disposition. I may be unable to act. I may be sick and in bed, And it doesn't mean because I'm not acting, I stop loving you, so to say. If I love you, I may demonstrate my love in acts. But if I, for whatever reason, I'm not able to act, I can still love you as an internal disposition. So you follow my point? So it's not just act. The act can be there, but it may not be there, and the disposition is still there, despite the act. That's a famous example of, and it's intentional, as we will see. It's an intentional disposition, free from ulterior motives, aimed at promoting the best for the one we love. That's the definition, like the rendering of Rupa Goswami's verse. Love is a profoundly intentional disposition. Again, it's intentional. I choose to do it, hopefully with all my heart. It's free from ulterior motives. I'm not loving you so I can get this thing for me separately. It's not separatistic. And it aims at promoting the best for the person I love. And the best can be something different any given circumstance. And I'm putting from the one I love just to not limit it to Krishna. Of course, Krishna is the center, but it's not that in loving Krishna, I do not love anyone else. On the contrary. And that's something interesting that that Jiva Goswami comments in the verse, in the definition of bhakti by Rupa Goswami. Because Rupa Goswami said, Anukulyena Krishna, Anusilanam. He said, Krishna is the object of bhakti. Krishna is the perfect object of love. We are not here arguing about that. No. But Jiva Goswami comments, to say that only Krishna is the only object of love, it's a narrow definition. And he's not saying that Rupa Goswami is saying that. He's saying if you interpret Krishna as only Krishna, that's a narrow way of thinking of this. If you think of the word Krishna as Krishna plus whatever is in relationship to Krishna, that's a broader definition, a more accommodating, comprehensive definition. So he's clarifying loving Krishna means loving Krishna plus loving what is in relationship to Krishna. And then, of course, the question is, so what is in relationship to Krishna? Well, everything. So the goal of life is to love everything. That's not an easy one, right? In one sense, it's easier to just love Krishna. He's the all attractive. That will be easier. No? He has so many qualities. I can love him. But to love everything else, everyone else, no? To love Swami Padmanabha also, oh my God. To love myself, let me love Krishna only. That's by definition, that's the mentality of a Kanishta Adhikari, like the neophyte, which we are not condemning. We have to begin somewhere. So we may begin like, Krishna, I love you, but then the altar is closed and I'm hating all the rest of the community, basically. I don't know how to talk to my children at home or to my husband. But Krishna, and I do all the... I love you so much, Krishna. But wait till the moment that the curtain closes. No, where the love remains. So again, we have to begin somewhere. We are not condemning that. That's why, but interestingly, the scriptures say that in the beginning, you have love for Krishna, probably only in the altar, probably only in your altar. In other altars, well, Krishna may be that present, but not so much as in my altar. Here is very like hyper-localized, self-centered. So the idea is as we progress in bhakti, we become more loving, more generous, and we realize Krishna is not only in my altar, not only in anyone's altar, everyone else's altar, in other people's heart, and eventually you conclude there is not a place Krishna is not present. It's a gradual process, but that's how the levels of advancement are described in the scripture. The Kanishta loves only Krishna, but doesn't know how to relate to everyone else. So how much ultimately he's actually loving the real Krishna fully? Not that much yet. It's something. It's a beginning. And with proper guidance, the neophyte will be able to love, to realize, oh, loving Krishna also implies loving, I don't know, the devotees. Still, it may be a little bit sectarian, only the devotees, or loving the devotees, only my community, only loving my spiritual brothers and sisters. Okay, I'm loving also others who are not my brothers and sisters, but who are also in the same mission. I'm also loving other Vaishnavas who are from another mission. I'm also loving others from another religious traditions, but not those atheists and impersonalists. I hate them. And gradually we are expanding our circle of love, realizing Krishna's presence everywhere. So that's how gradually love becomes more and more coherent, not only in definition, but in our experience. And eventually you see Krishna in every atom, basically. You perceive God's presence everywhere and you love everything. So again, that's the goal to attain in one way, and it takes time. No? So be patient, no rush. Celebrate that you are already on the path. But I'm saying all this, again, we are on this first paradigm shift. Let's learn to define love coherently, in a way that makes sense, in a way that is not exclusivistic, not just to Krishna, not just to me either. No? It's not like in the name of self-love, I become narcissistic and I forget Krishna and other people. That's not love either, as we say the other day. Real love has to be loving in every direction. If I love Krishna, I have to love all of you and I have to love myself. It's not that by loving God, I hate myself, or by loving me, I hate yourself. Love has to remain constant in every direction. If not, it's something else, right? So in that sense, as you can see, love is not so much like a temporary, like emotion. No? Like, oh, I'm in love now. I'm Sometimes people, at least in our place like Argentina, I've heard expressions like, sound a little bit like, how they say, I'm exploding in love or something. But then maybe after 5 minutes, the explosion is, and there's some other explosion going on. It's like, how much was that love, right? It's not just like a peak of some chemical substances that we translated. Oh, love is coming here, right? It's more of a lifestyle in one sense. Love is like, it's a discipline in the beginning. Okay, a profoundly intentional disposition, free from ulterior motives, aimed at the best for the person I love. Again, that's a daily practice. That's a daily exercise. And it can get more and more refined. So again, I'm trying to share some ideas about what love is according to the definition in our tradition and the implications of that. And by contrast, we may be all thinking then therefore what love is not. And hopefully engaging in Anartha-nivritti in that sense, getting rid of false values about love. Love is not exclusively limited to God, not exclusively limited to me. Love is not a temporary high peak chemical reaction in my brain. Love is, it's a lifestyle, it's a daily culture. Do you have any other thoughts about what love is not, based on what we were sharing?
Obsession.
Mm-hmm.
Obsession.
Yeah, we mentioned also, codependency before. Things that we may label, not put the name love on top, but what's taking place beyond that, the term. Okay, that's the first one. First key paradigm shift that we were sharing, trying to first, okay, we'll talk about love. Let's first define love, because if not, we don't know what we're talking about. Each one may have our own ideas about love. Second paradigm shift. Let's go to the second one. Let's see if we can get through the 9. Maybe it's too much. We'll see. We have time. It's raining. There's no place to go for a walk. So you're all trapped here. The second one, which is quite related to the main theme of my book, which is about the ever-evolving nature of everything. Says the expansiveness of love, of divine love. Loving God extends beyond just the divine. Well, I just mentioned that. It encompasses all that he loves. Since God's love reaches all of creation, our love for him must also expand to embrace everything and everyone. Yeah, I forgot that was the second one, but I just kind of went there. So, yeah, as we say, to love Krishna means to love all that he loves. Srila Prabhupada will say, you love me, you love my dog. That was his way of saying, if I have a dog, it's ideally implied that I love my dog. So if you love me, you will love my dog. If you come and kick my dog, I will have a problem with you. If you tell me, Swami, I love you, but I hate your dog, that may get in the way, because loving someone is loving the things the other person loves, by definition, ideally. So if we want to love Krishna, again, it's not just loving him and hating what he loves or dismissing, being indifferent to what he loves. We'll be deeply concerned about what are the things that Krishna loves. If I love a person, let's give even a very basic example. I love someone and I'm concerned even on some details, like, okay, I love Jagannathi Prabhu. I will try to find, okay, what's his favorite food? What's the food he loves? I will prepare that for him. Because I love him, I will be concerned with what he loves, and I will, you follow my point? I will try to spend some time not only loving what he loves, but being concerned, doing some research what that person loves and engaging with that favorably. So in the case of Christians, we say, there we have a little bit more challenging scenario, because Krishna loves everyone. So, okay, what does Krishna love? Maybe we should add, what does Krishna not love? And the answer is anything. He loves everything, right? Because by definition, Krishna is love. Then comes this thing that every tradition says, Bible also say God is love. In our tradition, we say Rasa Vai Saha. Taittiriya Upanishad says, he, the absolute, is Rasa. Rasa is the highest expression of love. Krishna is Rasa. Or, I don't know, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Prema Samput will say Radha and Krishna are, Radha is the personification of love. We will get to her in a minute. But in one sense, Radha and Krishna are one. Then comes the paradox of Achintya Bheda Ved, one and different. You cannot make Radha and Krishna entirely different, because that will be a dualistic thing. Radha and Krishna are one, and they appear as two for the sake of loving exchange and lila. That's declared in Chaitanya Charitamrita in our tradition. The absolute is one non-dual reality, which takes various forms for the loving interaction. But Radha and Krishna are one, and Radha is love personified, and Krishna is God. I say God in quote unquote in the sense that Radha is also God in one sense, the goddess and God, the polarities. So they are one in one sense. So God is love. So if you are love, imagine this: it's not that you are loving, you are love. So you cannot not love. If I'm love, I cannot go against my essential nature. If I'm made of love from tip to toe, there is a limitation in me. The limitation is I cannot not love. God has some limits also. I mean, those are beautiful limits. Krishna cannot not love. Thank God. It's not that because Krishna is God, he can do anything and everything at any moment. He can stop being God. No, he cannot do that. He can stop being love. No. But that's not, in one sense, a limitation in any negative way. It's one sense, a positive limitation that fills us with hope and possibility. That person is always loving. It's an ocean of mercy, as we were talking yesterday. So, but that creates a challenge for us, because, I want to love Krishna. Loving someone means loving what they love, and they happen to love everything. So loving Krishna means to love everything. Oh my gosh, we got into trouble now with this Krishna consciousness thing. I have to love everything and everyone? No, yeah. Even my enemies, especially your enemies. Especially those who you think are your enemies. Ultimately, there are no enemies. No. Srila Siddha Maharaj will say, the environment is friendly. You are only your own worst enemy. That's a hard pill to swallow. So easy to scapegoat the entire environment outside of me. Right? So real love is something that has to play out. Divine love plays out coherently and extends itself to everything and everyone. As I said before, that's why the more we progress in bhakti, the more we are able to expand our embrace of everything. Not only to, I love Krishna in my altar, but I love Krishna in every altar. I love Krishna in every heart. Everyone is loved by Krishna. So again, loving what Krishna loves. Okay, Krishna loves everyone. So I'm invited to love everyone because everyone is a beloved of God. Yesterday, Jagannath Prabhu was presenting the perennial question, who am I? We are all asking that question. And for me, a very healthy, healing definition is, to begin with, I am the beloved of Krishna. That's an unshakable truth. That's a very clear way of starting with a positive note, with a yes, I am the beloved of Krishna. And everyone else is as well. Just so it doesn't become, I am the beloved of Krishna. Yeah, you stay some time with that. We need that to feel that is healing. But at one point comes invitation, and everyone else is as well. And we should relate to each other accordingly. We should treat each other as beloveds of God. That's something very interesting. We are now in a room filled with beloveds of God. Oh, how to relate to one another as objects of Krishna's affection. Because again, if love of God results in disdain, in indifference to others, that's not love, that's projection, that's who knows what. So again, we don't want to misread love, to misapply love. So this is another aspect of Anartha-nivritti, another thing we need to get it clear, to get rid of this false value that loving God is one thing and loving everything else is a separate department. No, you cannot separate them because everything is interrelated. That's why the Gita will say, Pandita Samadarshinaha. A real Pandit doesn't just mean you memorize lots of verses or information. He says Samadarshinaha, someone of equal vision. Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmanega Vihasini Sunichaiva Sapakacha. He's seeing Brahman, cow, elephant, dog eater, and anything else. Those are just some examples. It's not just those five. Anything and everything with equal vision. No. Because it's easy. Okay, I will train my mind to see an elephant, a cow, a dog, a Brahmin, and a cow with a, but not my mother-in-law, no, not my father with whom I have a trauma from childhood, not that guy over there that I feel is my. Those are not mentioned in the verse. It's just the elephant, the cow. You follow my point? That's not the point of the verse. The point is they are seeing anything in the same way. Another verse in the Gita say the same. They see gold and pebbles with the same vision. So they're loving everything. Again, it's not easy. As I say, I'll never use the word easy in this whole retreat for the next 6 days. I will only use the word easy to say it's not easy. But it's not impossible either. I always like to say that. The opposite of easy is impossible, not difficult. Difficult is the middle point between easy and impossible. So we need it to be difficult, challenging enough for us to grow. Yeah, we need to learn to love everyone with the love Krishna loves everyone. That's how it's how it works. We need to see each other through the eyes how Krishna is seeing each other, through the eyes of unconditional love and acceptance. before going to the next one? Any thoughts about that, or any other versions of how we can misread this particular key paradigm shift of love as being extended to everyone and not limited to God and so on? Done with it?
The last sentence said that we should learn to love everyone like Krishna loves everyone. Reminds me of this idea that sometimes I thought that Krishna consciousness can be understood as thinking of Krishna, but it can also be understood of adopting Krishna's consciousness.
No, that's beautiful.
And that's what you just said, man, to love how Krishna loves. See the world how Krishna sees it.
Actually, again, it's just to clarify, I don't want to plagiarize Krishna and seem that I'm saying that, but actually in the Bhagavatam there's one verse I quote in Radical Personalism, for example, it says, we should learn to see the world as Krishna sees it. So it's kind of the same idea, right? So I'm just repeating that. But I appreciate your point of, because again, Krishna consciousness can become just a word that we use here and there, but what does it mean? And it can mean so many things. Not only being aware of Krishna, but also aware of how Krishna is aware of everything, and try to adopt that perspective, not in the sense I'm trying to become God, but if I want to love someone, I'm also empathizing with the way they see the world and they relate to things. So yeah, that's a beautiful way of reframing what Krishna consciousness means. What's Krishna's consciousness? Or how to become conscious of how Krishna is seeing me at this precise moment. As we said the other day, Krishna is loving you right now, right here. Are you aware of that or not? Becoming aware of that means to become Krishna conscious. Krishna conscious is not just being converted to or affiliated with a mission, receiving a name and like some stamped like institutional approval. Okay, now you're part of the group now in Krishna conscious. It means to become aware of who is Krishna, what does he feel, how he sees it. So yeah.
Sometimes there's this idea of Krishna's on one end, and we have to become Krishna conscious, and Krishna is the enjoyer of us being Krishna conscious. You know?
And Krishna then
is the enjoyer of us being Krishna conscious. He's the least Krishna conscious person, Krishna. He's like selfish and enjoying everything, and everything is made for him. And we are on this other end, we have to be Krishna conscious. But then, and it's empathize, be the servant and so on. Yeah? But it's like a half the aspect of the truth, because another aspect of the truth is this, that Krishna could not be more servant of his devotees, not more caring. So basically, if we want to become the perfect devotee, we actually follow directly Krishna's footsteps of how he acts towards his devotees.
Yeah. Love is always, as you say, reciprocal. So it's not just we are all the ones giving, and Krishna is taking and enjoying as we were. Actually, Krishna's greatest enjoyment is to love and serve his devotees. There's one verse in the Bhagavatam, 11th canto, one of my favorite ones, if not my favorite one. And this is a verse where the Gita is the devotees are described, but then the last two lines says, Anubrajami ham nityam pujyajeti angrirenu bihi. Krishna is speaking that too, that he's first describing nirapeksham munim shamtam nivairam samadarshinaha, qualities of their devotees. They are seeing everyone equally, the things we are talking about. And then he's saying, Anubrajamyaham nitya, I perpetually follow the footsteps of my devotees. Pujayeti angrirenu bihi. And by bathing, and I again, we are getting to a touching point here. Krishna is saying, I perpetually follow the footsteps of my devotees, and I bathe myself in the dust from their feet. And commentators say, and Krishna is hoping to be purified for the fault of not being able to reciprocate properly to their love. That's our God. So again, this is a very reciprocal thing. It's not the idea of Krishna just in the throne, consuming and receiving, and we are the ones giving and dedicating. I'm exhausted, Krishna, and Krishna says, I'm enjoying so much your exhaustion. Okay, that's not Krishna. When we say Krishna is the supreme enjoyer, yes, but then the question is, what's his supreme enjoyment as the supreme enjoyer? And then we discover is giving himself in love. I'm feeling, as we say yesterday and today, indebted because he feels like I'm not giving enough. That's his supreme enjoyment. So yeah, it's really, thank you for adding all that, because yeah, it expands our notion again of what it means to relate to God and to keep the whole thing reciprocal. Because again, love is a reciprocal, it's two-way street. And the same should apply to our relationship with gurus. No, it's not the disciple just exhaust themselves in dedication and there's no reciprocation from the other side. No. The reciprocation may take a different form of how the disciple dedicates to the guru and how the guru dedicates to the disciple, but there should be an equal amount of dedication and giving of oneself to the other. Right? So, because again, it's a love in exchange, ideally. So it's reciprocal. Okay, lots of churning is coming. So thanks so much for sharing. Ready to go to the next one? Again, we could say with one for the whole retreat. We are just giving short glimpses. And I think that's healthy also, like to have a glimpse like, oh my gosh, we could just talk about what Krishna consciousness mean for the rest of this lifetime. Maybe we go to other topics, but we had the glimpse of, wow, this is endless. Now we can stay here for that. That's a healthy experience we all need to have. So the whole process doesn't become stagnant and boring and superficial and this is it. There's so much in every possible direction, right? Okay, the third one. Unconditional love redefined. Now we are bringing the word unconditional. Unconditional love is not simply an undeserved gift. It is a love that knows no bounds, continuously expanding without constraints or conditions. It transcends all external limits and remains ever renewing. So here in this section, of course, all these are things that I'm speaking in the chapter itself. So many times we don't even consider unconditional love. That's in itself an anartha. Many times we only think of love as conditional. Again, if I become perfect, Krishna loves me. If I gain all this credit, I will be earning God's mercy. But by definition, mercy cannot be earned, right? So we approach mercy as a business. It's not happening. So sometimes I'm not speaking about this here, I'm adding that to even think of love as only conditional, that in itself is an anartha, a false value. So love is unconditional. It means it's a gift. We have not done anything to deserve it. Not to feel bad about ourselves, just it's what it is. No, it's a gift that is, even if you try to pay back, you will be never deserving that, because it's love is too much to be deserved. Let's put it that way. We should stop thinking about deserving. It's a way we should stop thinking those terms. How to deserve unconditional? It's not possible. And as we say, Krishna himself feels eternally indebted. So it's from both sides. If we are trying to love God, we will feel, oh, what I'm receiving from him, as much as I try to pay back, I can never pay back. It's too much. But Krishna is feeling exactly the same. That's the highest point of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and I just will mention that briefly because that's a dangerous entry point of no return. No, because when Krishna in the Brahma Vimohan Lila, where Brahma becomes bewildered, his forehead starts spinning like crazy. And then comes the chapter of Brahma Stuti. Brahma is praying and he says to Krishna, how you will pay back the love of these Brajavasis? Because Brahma is here now awakening to the glory of the love of Vrindavan. And he said, you gave yourself entirely to Putana, who wanted to kill you. No? You gave yourself to her in the sense you gave her a position like a mother of yours in Golok Vrindavan. That's what's mentioned in the Bhagavatam. She attained Vatsalya Bhav, and she wanted to kill Krishna. So that's a very extreme example of, yeah, Krishna is merciful, right? Oh, she comes dressed as a devotee, approaching me as a mother, Vatsalya Rasa. Well, so Brahma is now wondering, now I knew about that Putana Lila, that you gave her Vatsalya, but now I'm becoming aware of the dimension of the love of the Brajavasis, which has nothing to compare with Putana's attitude. So if you gave yourself entirely to Putana, so what will you give to the Brajavasis? Can you get the Brahma's question? And Krishna doesn't reply to that question immediately. He hears the question, he's like, good question. That's in chapter 14 of the 10th canto. We need to wait like 20 more chapters almost, and we reach chapter 31, 30, chapter 30 of the Bhagavatam. And then Krishna will somehow, that's the connection I make. And at one point, Krishna is in front of the gopis. This is a Rasa Lila now, witnessing the love of the gopis when he disappears from the Rasa dance and how they're singing in separation of him and longing for him and loving him. Krishna's behind a tamal tree, witnessing Radha's heart blossoming in separation. And he's like overwhelmed. How they can love me that much? It's too much. And he somehow reminds Brahma's answer, how will you pay them back for such love? So Krishna returns from hiding in the midst of the gopis, and he eventually pronounces this very famous verse that Sanatana Goswami says is the beginning of Gaur Lila. Krishna says, na para yaham nirabhadyasam jayam susadu krityam vibudaya sapiva samavajan durjaragiha shrinkalas and brishyatadva pratiyatu sadhana. He basically says, I cannot repay you back. Brahma asked me how you will pay back. I cannot pay back. I don't even know what's the debt that I've acquired. Because sometimes you have a debt, and at least you know, okay, it's 3 million euro. And you say, I cannot pay back that amount. But what if the debt is so big that you cannot even conceive how much is the debt? What to speak of paying back? So that's how Krishna feels in front of the gopis, like, I'm an eternal debtor to your love. I have no reward to give you back for your love. Your love is the reward. Love in itself is its own reward. It's such a reward, and then this is the beginning of Gaur Lila in one way, in the Bhagavatam. Sanatana Goswami says, Krishna says, it's such a reward, your love for me, that I want to experience that love firsthand. And that's Mahaprabhu experiencing the mood of Radha, right? Coming in the Bhagavatam. Anyhow, I don't know how we arrived here. But all this is in connection to the idea of unconditional love and how Krishna himself feels that. I'm being loved unconditionally. But my main point here is, in this third key paradigm shift, is first of all, get rid of the false belief that love is only conditional, that I have only to earn, to deserve, to be perfect, to perform, only then Krishna loves me. That's not how it works. You're already loved unconditionally by him. But unconditional love doesn't mean just you are being loved despite your faults, your imperfections. Like it's love is constantly tolerating us or something. But also, unconditional love means love grows constantly, despite conditions. No matter the nature of love is, no matter which condition, it can only expand. That's a definition that the nature of love is to grow. Rupa Goswami says the nature of love is it constantly grows, even in the face of things that seem to threaten love. Like you put obstacles to love, and love just like gains more momentum. like a river that is coming with full force, and you try to put some obstacle and it like build up and destroy and continue flowing with more strength than before. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives the example of a lion. A lion is walking and an elephant comes, attacking the lion, an obstacle. But the lion engages with the elephant, kills the elephant, and feeds on the elephant. So now has regained strength, is strengthened by the obstacle. So when there is real love, love can never diminish. It will always grow. Famous example I like to think of is some of the 6 Goswamis, before they were associating with Mahaprabhu, like for example, Sanatan Goswami went to jail. He wanted to associate with Mahaprabhu, he was put to jail. Imagine you are longing, dying to join Mahaprabhu, you love, they have pure love for Mahaprabhu. You want to meet the object of your love, sent to jail. Raghunath Goswami, he wanted to escape his home to join Mahaprabhu. He was brought back home over and over again. And each one of them had their own obstacles. But never their love for Mahaprabhu decreased. It's not like, oh, I'm in jail now. I get depressed. I don't want to meet Mahaprabhu. I lost hope. Whatever they already had, that fire of love just was increasing. Those obstacles were like wood put into the fire of their love, and love continues to increase. So the nature of love is it's always growing, it's ever evolving. So that's an important thing for us to understand. Love is not just a thing that we attain and it remains always there in the same place. That's why I sometimes like to, again, bring a paradigm shift, saying, yes, the goal of our lives is love. We can say prem, prayojan, the goal of life is prem. But once you attain love, you realize, oh, there are so many newer and deeper levels of love to be attained. And that will be a daily affair in Golok Vrindavan. So in one sense, you will never attain love fully. You can always attain more. That's what keeps the whole thing exciting. It's not that Radha and Krishna love each other to a point that they say, okay, we cannot love each other more. So we have to figure out our relationship with the amount of love we have. There's always a new depth of love. And that's the paradox, because the more love you have, the more love you realize you can have. So by contrast, you may feel you don't have love, paradoxically. That's what Mahaprabhu said, as we say, I think, the other day. Na prema gandha suti darapi harome. In me, there is no love. We know that's not true. It's the personification of love, the golden volcano of divine love. But he's saying, I don't have even an aroma of love. But that means, again, he's realizing how much more love is there. Bhaktivinoda Thakur will say, I'm full of lust, in one of his songs. Do you think that's true? No. So do you think he's, writing the song like, okay, actually I'm not full of lust, but I will write this song and say that I'm full of lust, so the guys who will read the song can identify with that, because they are full of lust, but not me. I don't think Bhaktivinoda Thakur also was writing from that calculated place. So in one sense, he genuinely felt what he wrote. You follow my point? But he was not full of lust. So for me, how I made sense of that was like, he was so full of love that, again, having love implies realizing how much more love is there waiting for you. So by comparison to what love you have, you feel I have no love, or in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's words, I'm full of lust. That was his way of the contrasting experience he had. So much love is there to be had that I still have not embraced, that by comparison what I have, lust. It's not lust. Again, it's difficult to understand until we get there, right? But that was my best attempt to try and to harmonize those words, right? And the paradoxical experience, Srila Sridhar Maharaj will say, the closer you get to the infinite, the more you realize there is no limit to progress. there's no limit to how much growth can be in the infinite. So that can be overwhelming. It's too much. But that's the nature of love, anyhow. So that's an anartha that we need to get rid of. Not the idea that love is conditional, can be earned, it's not unconditional. And to understand God's unconditionality not only as a gift that is given that we cannot earn, but also it's unconditional. No matter the conditions, love is always expanding. And in that connection comes the next one.
Can you read it again?
The third one? Okay, yeah. Unconditional love redefined. Unconditional love is not simply an undeserved gift. It's also that, but not simply that. It is a love that knows no bounds, continuously expanding without constraints or conditions. No, unconditional. It transcends all external limits and remains ever renewing, ever fresh.
Are you saying that is? Are you just saying it's more than an undeserved gift, or are you saying it's not an undeserved gift?
No, I'm saying it's an undeserved gift, but it's unconditional. Not only means that I'm receiving something I do not deserve. Unconditional also means, despite the conditions, love always grows. You follow my point? So even if we are talking about not here in this world, but in the spiritual world, everyone is pure devotee, enlightened, still there is unconditional love. Love is growing despite any situation, any condition. Love can only grow, basically. That's like the nature of that. As I gave the example the other day in turn in Italy of the Govardhan Lila, right? Like, for example, let's take the love of the Brajavasis. There are psychologists that they love Krishna not because he's God, right? The idea that Krishna may be God will be an obstacle to their love. But Krishna here, he's lifting Govardhan, right? So you have a 7-year-old boy lifting a pretty heavy thing with his smallest finger of his weakest hand. Try to get the contrast, like the weakest possible part of your body lifting the heaviest possible thing in town. Govardhan Hill. It would take 6 hours to circumambulate. So that's big. For 7 days, not just for 10 seconds, but for a whole week, effortlessly. So all that is like a very clear sign of Aishvarya, like majesty, divinity. It's not like how Brajavasis see Krishna like as an ordinary friend and child and kid and it's like, what's going on here? Okay. Imagine if your daughter at 7-year-old lifts a heel. I mean, you are disturbed in your maternal love. It's like, who is she? What's going on here? So I give you all this example to illustrate this example that love can only grow. So the psychology of the Brajavasis, they love Krishna as, depending on the relationship, as a child, as a friend, as a lover, not as a god, not as a super extraordinary being. But Krishna is doing something super extraordinary in front of everyone. In this lila, the whole of Vrindavan is witnessing that. So we will think, oh, now everyone is getting disturbed. Their love for him will shrink. No? Yashoda's maternal love will get disturbed. She won't see Krishna as her son. She will see Krishna's dog as God. Krishna's friends will become disturbed. They will no longer see Krishna as their friend. The gopis' romantic love will be disturbed. They will start to wonder, who is this guy? Maybe he's some superhuman, whatever. But nothing of that happens, which shows how unconditional their love is. Despite the conditions, Krishna overtly doing something divine, their psychology is such that their madhurya increases instead of their Aishvarya comes, but their intimacy, the love and intimacy increases. That's how the love of the Brajavasis works. It can only grow in intimacy. So Yashoda is seeing Krishna lifting the heel, and rather than thinking, oh, maybe my son is God, she's thinking, oh, he must be so hungry after doing all this effort of lifting the heel. So she starts to feed him. again, for us, that's madness. That doesn't make sense. It's the madness of love. No? So his friends are seeing Krishna lifting the heel. They're not like, who is he? We thought he was our friend. They're like, Krishna, you must be tired of lifting the heel. Maybe you should give the heel to Sridham, because Sridham is stronger than you. Even this happens, right? Every day he defeats you in wrestling. We all see that. You're always defeated by Sridham. So pass the heel to him for a while. So you take rest. That's their psychology. And Krishna doesn't pass the heel. He still, so they start, okay, and they start to massage his arm so he can have some relief. This is the psychology, no? The gopis see Krishna lifting the heel, and they are like, you cheater, you fake that you're lifting the heel. Actually, Govardhan is floating in ecstasy because it's pleased by the offerings of Nanda Maharaj some minutes ago, and Govardhan is leaping in joy, and you just happen to come down and put your finger down like if you're lifting it. But we know you're a cheater. So the romantic love increases. No? The Sakas love, fraternal love, friendship love increases. Yashoda's Vatsali increases. So that's an example of love as being unconditional. No matter which is the condition, the circumstance, it can all increase. It's an obstacle, Aishvarya, but actually the Aishvarya is nourishing the Madhurya.
Isn't Nanda Maharaj using his stick though?
Yeah, we see all this picture from the elders. Okay, let's help him, right? It must be a little hard on him already. We're 6 days, so again, that's the charming, beautiful psychology of love. No matter what Krishna does, even if it's super extraordinary, they can only increase their love and intimacy for him. So that means love is unconditional. That's another way of speaking about love as unconditional. That was my main point. We can speak of love as unconditional as Krishna already loves all of us without having done anything to deserve that. That's one way of saying love is unconditional. Another way is like the example I just gave. Love continues to grow despite what may happen.
Can I also say something?
Yes, of course.
But also Krishna's love increases because when he sees the beauty of the gopis, he was shivering.
Of course. Again.
It's his view then also.
Mm-hmm.
It's also not an obstacle for him.
Sorry again?
It's not an obstacle for him, it's Aishwarya.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Again, it's always reciprocal. So whatever I'm saying about the devotees feeling for Krishna, you can always have to keep in mind that's reciprocal. So that also applies to Krishna in relation to his devotees. In fact, in writing the fourth book I'm writing, there is a section where I share some verses of prayers of devotees to Krishna, but then some other verses of prayer from Krishna to his devotees. And actually, you read those prayers and you don't know who is talking to whom. You follow my point? At one point, the words we offer to address Krishna may be the same words. He will take those words and give them back to us. So we lose sight who is devotee and who is servant and who is the object of service, because both end up being servants in love, right? So as we were talking the other day with Patrak, that we were reading a section from Srila Siddhar Maharaj's book, Follow the Angels, and we said, let's just open what comes. And Srila Siddhar Maharaj was talking about, he used a strong word, slavery, and say we should become slaves of Krishna. But hold on, don't get triggered by the word slavery, because that can happen. But he's not in that particular paragraph, but in that section, he's clarifying. Yes, here he speaks about das, becoming a das, a slave, but he says, and Krishna likes so much slavery that he himself becomes a slave to his slaves. No, so that's his point. Both are slaves. Again, the word slave may have negative connotation in this world, but he's using that in the context of love, which is a very different thing to say, I'm a slave of love. And both parts are surrendered to that, right? So it's again always mutual, reciprocal.
I have to just sit on the chair.
Yeah, please take your.
A little too much.
Yes.
There is one purport. I think the Bhagavad says that the servant and the master, somehow like that, are on the same are on the same level. The exchanges with the same level.
Yeah, again, Gita 4:11, right? Jiyatamam prapadyante tam statai babajami. As you approach me, I reciprocate.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all in that verse in one sense, but we need to play out the implication. What's the verse actually saying? Right? So you become my slave, I become your slave. Krishna said, I reciprocate accordingly. No? I'm not like an elitistic guy with a superiority complex because of being God or something. In one sense, we could argue he already started the whole thing, because even when we do not approach him, he's already loving us unconditionally. So it's not that once I approach him, he starts to care for me. No, in that verse, he's just saying when we approach him, he reciprocates accordingly. But he's already loving us before we even approach him. Okay. Shall we continue? It's a few more minutes. You have a little more time. Okay. So number 4 is very connected to what we just said. So again, there are some of them are like elaborations of the other one. So the 4th key paradigm shift. And again, all this is in the concept of Anartha-nivritti, getting rid of false values. Maybe I'm not concentrating so much on sometimes what's the false value, but what's the actual value. Because in one sense, that's the best way to get rid of the false one, bringing the positive and charming and beauty of how things actually are. So the 4th one says, true love has no opposite. Genuine love, the explanation says, genuine love doesn't devolve into unlove. It only deepens. There is no dichotomy where love turns into its opposite. Instead, love continues to grow in intensity and depth, both in quantity and quality. So yeah, generally many of us, many times, we live in a world of opposites. Huh? That's kind of part of the dualistic mindset. There's black, there's white. Hard, soft, cold, heat. Dualism, dualities. So we'll say, okay, so the opposite of love is, and someone may say hate, or someone may say fear, but actually, true love has no opposite. True love can only become more of what it already is. That's the point. True love doesn't devolve into its opposite. If it's true love, it becomes just more love and more love. So when we speak about hate or fear or whatever, we are just talking about the absence of love, but not the opposite. Because love is so powerful that it has no opposite. It can only become more of what it already is. Yes.
Fear and hate, because love has no opposite, then also fear and hate become, so to say, part of love. There might be fear in love, or hate, even something called like hate in love.
Well, that's another way of conceiving that. That's a good way, because yeah, we have all this. I don't know if you want studies. Rupa Goswami's Ujjwal Nilamani, he describes love in so many nuances and the different expressions, and there's anger in love, and there is fear, and there's anxiety, but there's suffering, but all of that in the context of love.
Love transforms everything.
Exactly. So there's no opposite to love. It's just love integrates everything and makes it part of its own thing. Rupa Goswami will say, Aheri bhagati premna svabhava kutilabhavet, which means love moves in a crooked way like a snake. That's a very interesting statement, right? So define love, a snake. Like, what? So there are different ways to explain that. One is like a snake moves in zigzag. So it's not straight line. It's not predictable. It's not something that I can control, like I can predict. Oh, love is coming like this, so I will catch it in this part and I will measure and control that. Well, we are to be controlled by love, not the other way around. But Srila Siddhar Maharaj will also explain this zigzag, crooked movement of love in connection to what you say, like love, because if you move in a straight line, so many things are happening here and here, but you are not embracing them, because you are just straight line. But if you move in zigzag, you're integrating everything and making that part of love. So what you say, hatred, fear, suffering, envy, you name it. It all has finds its ultimate place in love. And in the beginning, it may be difficult to think envy in love, hatred. But then Rupa Goswami in his Ujjwal Nilamani explains that very clearly with examples from the Leela. And again, we have to be very careful not to compare that envy with what we know is envy. That's why we need some time to be grounded in what love is. And when we really get a glimpse of what love is, we understand, love being what it is can accommodate all those things in their ideal virtuous expression. Love is such an accommodated thing that there can even be envy in love. There can be even suffering in love, which in the beginning is contradictory for our mind. No? Love and suffering, they're two different things. So I'm here not to suffer anymore. But when you study the Leelas of Radha and Krishna, they suffer a lot in separation from each other. Actually, in one sense, they suffer more than we suffer. More really, more deeply, more profoundly. Our suffering, in one sense, is a joke by comparison. Not to downplay what you are going through. I hope you get not down to being sensitive. But I don't know, Radha and Krishna, they are in separation from each other after 10 seconds of being united, and they feel they are dying. And that's the 10th, there are 10 symptoms of separation. The last one is mriti, or death. It's not that they die, but they feel like, if I do not meet my beloved, I'm dying. Fortunately, they always meet, but they feel like dying. And for us in eternity, our service will be to assist them in their suffering and make arrangement to mitigate the suffering. But we first have to connect with their suffering and be empathic with that. So it's not about not suffering at all. So, and we have glimpses here even. No, I don't just, I'm talking about the Leela of Radha and Krishna, but here, I don't know, compassion. If you feel compassion for someone, you are suffering. I mean, the person is suffering, and for you to feel the compassion, you have to suffer. You have to contact their suffering, but contact your own suffering. But it's a suffering that at the same time is loving. Compassion is a symptom of love. So you're loving and you are suffering at the same time. So we have experiences here now how these two things, apparently contradictory, can coexist and need to coexist. So that's the idea. The more our love grows, the more it can accommodate so many apparently contradictory emotions to the point that nothing is left out of the equation. That's another way of saying true love has no opposite. It just grows and expands and accommodates everything in its way. So it never diminishes. Real love, it never dies. Can only deepen, become more broad and more generous. So that gives a lot of hope, because again, a true love doesn't fail. Let's put it that way. Because sometimes we have experiences of failure in the context of love, but true love doesn't fail. And if we are sincere, we know true love is always there, and it will never fail us. Yeah. Intense stuff. Any thoughts before turning to the next one? If we turn to the next one, we are just less than half. I may go quickly to some of them, because tomorrow I'm planning to go to the next chapter, which is about God. Yes.
You were saying that actually Krishna is suffering more, and Srimati Radharani and Krishna, for instance, they're suffering more than we are suffering. I was thinking about that, and you added another point, because we might feel empathy or love for another person, and if this person is suffering. So I was thinking my deepest despair could be that everything is meaningless. even if I have some empathy for another person and I see the suffering of them, but at the last, everything is meaningless. There is no meaning to it. It's just some unconscious display of variety and feelings and whatever. But in the so if we think that everything is meaningless, then this is some very intense. Actually, one wants to give up one's life. It's very intense, but it's negative suffering because something is missing. It's from the point of lacking. And Krishna is positively suffering, or Radharani is positively suffering. They have all this fullness of life, and they think, okay, maybe I offended the other one or so. This is positive suffering, so it must be just philosophically for me. It must be real, intense suffering. The other suffering just depends because I'm not fulfilled.
Thank you for that. There's so much to say about that. That's beautiful. It reminds me Viktor Frankl, A Man's Search for Meaning. You've read that book? If not, it's an interesting one. And he says the goal of life is not to be happy, but to find meaning, even when you are not happy. No? Because sometimes we want to just be happy, not suffer, happy. But sometimes you will suffer. So what to do with the suffering? But if you find meaning and purpose, even in suffering, and he was a prisoner in Auschwitz in the Holocaust, and he went through the worst of the worst, and he was able to find meaning and purpose for him being in that situation, not justifying anything of that, but just for some reason I'm here. If I do not find meaning and purpose in me being here, everything becomes meaningless and it's over. So he made this point. The ultimate goal is not happiness, but meaning and purpose. And one word for meaning or purpose in Sanskrit is artha, and one meaning for love is, in our tradition, paramartha, or the supreme meaning and purpose. So when you love, everything has meaning and purpose, even suffering. And that's why suffering can be described as even sweet in our tradition. Srila Maharaj will speak about the suffering can be sweet. Srila Siddhar Maharaj, the paradoxical sweetness in suffering. Chaitanya Charitamrita says, Bahi Visra Jalahai Vitire Anandamai Krishna Prema Adbhuta Charit. The wonderful characteristics of divine love, it's on the outside, it may seem at times as poison, no? Rather than Krishna dying in separation and crying, and it's like, and on the inside, it's full of ananda, full of nectar. But externally, it seems like the worst of the worst. So we should understand what's taking place, because it's understandable. Many of us come from suffering in this world. And probably you shouldn't introduce Krishna consciousness to that person by describing the death-like symptoms in separation. It's like, more of that for eternity? No, thank you. I become Buddhist and go to Nirvana and no more suffering. That's it. So yeah, that's it. We have to know when to introduce that to others or to ourselves even, so we can really get a proper grasp of what's taking place there. Because there can be so much projection, and that's an anartha, again, a false belief. Okay, let's go to the next one. Let's see how much we can tolerate this. Maybe I'll go a little quickly. At least a few more. This next one says love as potency plus potential. And again, many of these are similar to the previous one with different language. Love is the ultimate potency, like a Shakti in Sanskrit, energy or potency. And like all potent energies, it is imbued with potential. This potential allows love to perpetually grow and evolve, never remaining static. So again, everything, and not only love, everything, we, souls, are Shakti, Jiva Shakti or Tatastha Shakti. Love, Bhakti Shakti, Swarup Shakti. Matter, Bahiranga Shakti or Maya Shakti. All these are Shaktis or potencies. And every potency has potential. So potential means you are something, but you can become something. more. So that's simple, but that's an important point to bear in mind. Something is what is plus what it can be. Einstein said that in scientific terms. You cannot analyze something for only what it is, but for all that it has the potential to become, because that's imbued in what someone is. And we'll talk about that later when in a few days, when we talk about the soul as units of potential. That's who we are. Who we are is all that we can become. So love is the same. Love is something plus all that it can be. And that implies endless possibilities. So love is not static. It's not something that we can put our finger and say, this is love. It cannot become more than that. No. It's ever evolving, ever expanding, because love is potency plus potential. Every potency has potential. Love is the ultimate potency. Love has the ultimate potential. So again, Anartha-nivritti in this case will be to get rid of the false value or false belief of love is something and it cannot become something else. Love is constantly renewing itself. It's never exhausted. Let's put it that way. It's fueled by relationship, by exchange. So that's why we say before, you can never love enough. You can always love more. So don't be so obsessed, like, when will I arrive to what? You can always arrive further somewhere else in love. So in one sense, you don't need to ask that question anymore. You just need to love a little bit more today, tomorrow, and when you officially arrive to Golok Vrindavan, you continue increasing your loving disposition also. So you follow my point? So for me, at that point, the whole question of when will that happen to arrive? That's why we say we Vaishnavas do not care for liberation. We are not asking when I will get free from samsara and go to that, because that's not our goal. Our goal is how to increase my loving disposition, and that has no limit. So I can always ask that question every day. and that's the daily question everyone has in their minds in the spiritual world: how to love more and better today. It's an ongoing question and an ongoing answer. Maya Pursangan, you escaped. Okay, you are there. You're there. Okay.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
Because I have the feeling that we're getting into a rush to finish this 9 points, but if everyone is on board, we can also take a short break of 10 minutes and then just continue. It's not that we have to.
Yeah, whatever you need.
10 lost minutes.
Yeah.
10?
I'm just kidding.
10 what?
Lost minutes.
Just kidding. I don't
Yeah.
we have to
I
stop
find it a
11
good
also.
idea because I
Yeah.
have to drink some.
Anna here is putting thumbs up. Yeah, because again, I know it can be a lot of stuff, and I don't want also to be, okay, we are in a rush, we have to finish, and in order to be a 7-hour lecture. But also, I'm not staying in Austria for 3 months, so I wanted just to try to cover basically. But yeah, we
but
can.
I'm saying we don't have to finish at 11 or so.
Yeah, of course, there is no rush. Okay, so let's do like that then. I'll pause I'm recording now, so I'll pause the recording, and we can meet again in what will it work?
Now it's 10:30, so 10:40.
Maybe 20 minutes if Maharaj wants to eat fruits.
I'm fine. I'm eating. That this is prasad. This is a banquet. Okay, Anna, how many minutes? 10 minutes? 15 minutes?
As you wish, I will be here.
Okay, she will be there. Okay, it's 10:30. Let's meet at 10:45.
Okay.
Right? Okay, see you there. So we are back after a short break. And yeah, we'll try to continue exploring some of the remaining key paradigm shifts that we're trying to to go through in the context of, again, what is Anartha-nivritti really, and how to get rid of some false values, in this case, in the concept of love. So if we've gone far through 5, there are 4 more, and I'll try to, let's see where the journey takes us. So far we gave first one, a coherent definition of love. Then we spoke about the expansiveness of divine love, like love not limited to God, but to everyone else. Then we redefine unconditional love, not only as being love despite not earning it, so to say, but also love expanding no matter the conditions. We spoke how true love has no opposite, but it can only become more of what it is. And it integrates everything, apparent opposites, as part of it. And we just concluded talking about love is potency plus potential. So it's what it is plus all that it can be. And that gives endless prospect for expansion. And as I like to say, that's why for us in our tradition, the Lila, when we hear about the Ashtakaliya Lila, these 8 divisions of the eternal day of Radha and Krishna, and what they do in each division, it seems that every day they do something somehow similar. So, I mean, who wants to go to a place for eternity where you do every day this almost the same thing, if it's not always growing and expanding internally, right? So that's the only way the lila is sustainable, so to say, and it is. So let's go to the next one, which is the 6th one, 6 paradigm shifts. This is an interesting one, which is fulfillment and longing in love. And again, all of them are somehow related. So it says, divine love offers complete fulfillment while simultaneously creating a sacred longing for more. This paradox drives love's endless expansion. Love, therefore, not only is the ultimate necessity, but also creates the ultimate necessity in the form of further love. So yeah, there are many sections in this chapter speaking about that. Love's insatiable appetite. Always more, loving more. So there's that side of the longing, but also love gives total fulfillment. No? In our tradition, again, we say before the word prayojan. In Sanskrit, prayojan means goal, like attainment, but also prayojan means necessity. So we can say that love is the ultimate goal, but love is the ultimate necessity. Not only it's the thing we need the most, but when we have it, it creates an ongoing neediness. Going back to being needy. We're in an needy also means ocean, right? Needy. So we're in an ocean of neediness. That's what the love creates, more love. No? So it's paradoxical, which means on some level it seems contradictory, on another level makes sense, but we have to reach that level. So yeah, when someone loves, how to say, if you have divine love, you no longer need anything else. But that thing that you now have creates its own necessities. You always need more of that forever, basically. So longing and contentment, both of them. And even in the Lila, we could say they take the form of union and separation. Like union brings the joy and the contentment and love, but separation creates the longing for more. And back and forth. The one is nourishing each other. The two are necessary, basically. So this will be one of those. The apparent contradiction, but that is perfectly fine in love, creating a thirst for more, no? And a holy dissatisfaction, if you want to say. Bhaktivinoda Thakur said Krishna is Atmaram, means he's self-satisfied. But then he says he's Pararam. He's divinely dissatisfied in the sense of law, in the context of law. No? So the two of them are coexisting at the same time. No? He's self-satisfied in the sense that, yeah, I don't need anything else outside of love, but inside of love, there's so much neediness, so to say, so much necessity. So being needy is not a problem on some level.
Yes, I'm there.
Yeah, as long as, of course, our needs are somehow in certain connection. But yeah, Krishna is in need constantly, in one sense, in need of. And let me put it as sometimes I like to put it, even it may sound a little bit extreme, but as we were saying before, Radha and Krishna sometimes in their leelas dying in separation. And the service of their assistance is to give them hope. You will meet, I know Krishna's friends, Priyanarma Sakas, giving Krishna hope. No, you will meet Radha. We are making these arrangements and console him and recite poetry and remind him of her, and the manjaris and gopis reminding Radha. So they're in need. They are dying in separation. And that's the arrangement of the Lila. And our eternal service, as I like to put it, is to save, on a daily basis, to save God's life. Which sounds strange, because who am I to save God's life? It doesn't make any sense, right? But in the Lila, God and Goddess, they are dying in separation from each other on a daily basis, and our service will be to prevent that from happening, them from dying. Again, they will never die, but that's the arrangement made in the Lila. So they are in need of help, of support, of consoling. That's very interesting. So, but that's the paradox of love. Again, there is full satisfaction and full longing at the same time. So again, an anartha to get rid of will be also to not think that love is only contentment and satisfaction, or only that love is only longing, black and white. Again, there's an integration of apparent opposites. Oh, there's something I want to share with you. And we are invited to that. No? Srila Prabhupada comments in one verse of the Bhagavatam, no one is ever satiated by seeing the transcendental form of the Lord, because there are always manifestations of newer and newer beauties. Thus, there is no satiation in chanting the holy name of the Lord or discussing his divine qualities. Because you can never get it to fully get it. It's always more. There's always more. Right? And it is described in Brihad Bhagavatamrita that once Narad Muni, in realizing all this, realizing, wow, the nature of love is creating this thirst for more perpetually. So once he's meeting Krishna, Brihad Bhagavatamrita narrates, and Narad and Krishna, he asks a blessing from Krishna, give me a blessing. And Krishna says, yes, what's the blessing? And Narad Muni brings a very unusual blessing. He says, may nobody ever feels fully satisfied with your love. Regarding what we are talking, may nobody be fully satiated, which is an unusual blessing he's asking. And Krishna says, but Narad Muni, you travel all around the universe, and you meet many devotees, and you see actually with your own eyes that they are never satiated. So why you're asking that blessing? That's already happening. So better ask a better blessing, because that's already taken place. So Krishna replies in that way, basically. Normally, may nobody feel that they have enough of your love. They're always in some. Krishna says, why are you asking that? That's already happened. It's a way of Sanatana Goswami and Brihad Bhagavatamrita of making this point. Love creates, since love is ever evolving, constant growth, it's some corresponding thirst to it. Yeah. Any thoughts before moving forward to the next one?
Yeah. It seems to be the nature or non-dualistic
Mm.
consciousness.
Mm.
Yeah, it's so overwhelming. It's
Yeah. It's good to feel overwhelmed at times by things like this. Like, wow. Even if we are not experiencing that, but in theory, hearing about that is like,
it's simply too good to be true.
yeah, that is true. And it's too good. Okay, let's go to the next one. We have 3 more. I think we can make it in time. The next one is love is life's ultimate goal, even for God, not only for us. For those who have not yet realized divine love, it is the ultimate goal to strive for. For those who already possess it, including God, love remains an ever-evolving pursuit, never fully attained, but always advancing. So again, I've already mentioned some of these things before. So that's why love is the goal of life for us. No? The goal of life for us is not, in most theologies, God is the goal. No? Prabhupada will say that. Many religions teach, okay, God is the goal of life. But we have another goal of life, and God has another goal of life. No? For most theologies, God is in the altar. But we also share how God has his own altar, so to say, and he's worshipping love, Radha, personified. The Hipada Palamamudaram. No? Krishna falls at the feet of Radha and worships her feet. So, yeah, love in one sense is the goal of life for us, and it's the goal of life for Krishna, for everyone. That's what makes something really the goal of life. It's not the goal of life for some. It's the goal of life for everyone, including God. That's the real final goal of life. Everyone is pursuing that, and nobody feels they have enough of that. They can always have more, and they remain pursuing that basically forever. Like we were saying the other day, Krishna says, Chaitanya Charitamrita, Radhikar Prema Guru Amisi Senata. The love of Radha is my guru, and I'm his dancing pupil. That's how God describes himself. I'm a student in the school of love. I'm always learning new steps in the dance. Interestingly. So that's what makes up something truly the goal of life. No? It's even the goal for God. And again, when I say the goal, it's not a final attainment. No, don't think a goal about something that once I have it, there's nothing else to be attained. No. Yeah, in one sense, there's nothing else to be attained apart from love, but there's always a new expression of love to be attained forever. So again, this is very, for me, all this sets us on an ongoing journey, right? Bhakti is in itself a journey, and as some people will say, enjoy the journey and don't be so obsessed with the destination. It's not so much, okay, I'm in point A, when I'm getting to point B, when I get to the goal. Because bhakti is the goal, but bhakti is also the journey. And you're already on the journey, and the journey is the goal, and that goes on forever, even for God. So we should relax a little bit, so to say, and enjoy the ride, the bhakti ride, and appreciate that and be in the present moment. And that will warranty the next stage of the journey. So anyhow, I wanted to make that clear. Of course, when we say love is the goal of life for Krishna, it doesn't mean that Krishna doesn't have love. He is love, as we say it. But again, the nature of love is ever expanding. So it always remains 2 steps ahead, something else new to be experienced and relished, and for us as well. Any thoughts before we turn to the next one?
So one could say that love is ultimate sovereignty and ultimate neediness alike.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Yeah. Again, it sounds so paradoxical, right? But like one of my teachers said, paradox holds the most truth. When you pursue the truth, you have to know truth is paradoxical. I mean, our metaphysics are called bed abed. That's paradoxical. Achintya. Achintya means paradoxical. It's like, because bed abed, difference, non-difference. For a non-paradoxical mind, it's no, it's difference or non-difference. No, it's difference and non-difference. Unity and diversity. Sovereignty and neediness, or whatever, right? Like we will explore that tomorrow, but for example, the scripture said Krishna is changeless. We'll talk about more of that tomorrow. Rupa Goswami gives 64 attributes of Krishna. One of them is he's changeless. The two attributes after that, he said he's ever, always new and fresh. But he's changeless. He's ever new. So the two of them are at the same time existing together. In which ways, we will explain tomorrow. But again, paradox holds the most truth. The richest experience of reality has to integrate opposites, what we may think, polarities, like the yin-yang, right? You've seen the yin-yang symbol. There's black and white, but there is some black in the white and some white in the black. No? There is a balance and an integration. Yeah. Okay, let's go to the 8th one. We have a few more minutes. This one I like a lot. We spoke about this one a few months ago when we were celebrating the Shrimha Chaturdasi. The next day we were celebrating the appearance of Radharaman. It's called God as a byproduct of love. Love, synonymous with divine creativity, shapes and forms the various manifestations of the divine. God's forms, moods, and identities are dynamically sculpted by the love he receives, continuously adapting and evolving in response to the varied expressions of love directed toward him. I'm becoming a little poetic here, but it's not possible not to do it. So there are many verses in our tradition, and I refer to those in the book, which says how Krishna manifests different forms according to the love he receives. So there's a case to make that God's form is a byproduct of the love of his devotee. You bring Hanuman here, and the absolute will manifest in the form of Ram, a form corresponding to love. So in a poetic way, we could say the form of God is sculpted, carved out of the love of his devotee, because his form is a response to that love, a corresponding form to a corresponding love. No. We spoke about that, as I said, a few months ago in Nrsimha Chaturdasi, where Nrsimhadev appears in a corresponding form to protect Prahlad Maharaj's situation. It's very specific to that situation. And then the next day, it's no wonder that the next day comes the manifestation of Radharaman, who is a self-manifest deity, as you may know, famous in Vrindavan. And we could say it comes out of the love of Gopal Bhatta Goswami from Shalagram Srila. It takes a very unique form to fulfill the love of his devotee. So we could make that case. Every form of the divine is in response to the love of each devotee. And I wouldn't limit that to Krishna, Ram, Nrsimha, but I will say to each unique devotee, God manifests a unique, irrepeatable form, because each devotee will have a very unique love. Even if all of us, let's, as a hypothetical, say we all love Krishna, Radha and Krishna in Madhurya Rasa, to put in a hypothetical, it's not that they will appear in the exact same form to everyone, because the way each one loves the divine is unique. So there has to be a unique corresponding form. Again, going back to Bhagavad Gita 4:11, as you approach me, I reciprocate accordingly, specifically, uniquely. Radical personalism. Krishna is radically personal. Each relationship is unique. It's not the same as any other. So in that sense, I share some thoughts here about how we can think of not so much of love as a reaction to God, but God as a reaction to love, if you will. God's manifestations as a result of the love he's receiving. Again, whatever form of the divine is a response to a particular form of love. When you want to think of God without love, without the devotee loving him, if you want to take out that love and that devotee, what you have is Brahman. Still is God, we can call it, still is the divine, an aspect of the absolute. Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavaniti, Shabditi, Brahma. So Brahman is the absolute, but without qualities, without form, because there is no loving interaction. When you bring bhakti into the picture and bring the bhakta into the picture, then the absolute starts to take shape. He's shaped by the love he receives. And that takes him to take so many manifestations. Again, not only as Krishna, Ram, this or that, but a unique, like tailored, how to say in English? Tailored, like tailor-made form for each one, because the way each one of us will or loves or will love Krishna is irrepeatable. We cannot copy paste that. So he will manifest the unique form to correspond and reciprocate to that love. We need to become poetic to speak about all these things. Like Chaitanya Charitamrita says, when it comes to speak about the highest peaks of love, you have to become poetic. You cannot not do it. It's poetry is the only language available at that point. So, and this is interesting because also, again, on one side we have the changeless side of God, as we will see tomorrow, but we have the ever-evolving side of God. So if God's form is corresponding to our love, and if our love is ever-evolving, because that's the nature of love, we could say that the form of God is ever-evolving in reply to that ever-evolving love. So it's an ever-evolving dance, and back and forth, back and forth. It's always increasing in beauty. For example, this is what it said, Chaitanya Charitamrita, right? This famous person. This is Krishna's form. We are talking about Krishna's form now. Krishna's form is becoming more beautiful at every moment. It's evolving. Krishna, in response to the love he's receiving. And he then says, Krishna Das says, and the love of the gopis, he's talking about the gopis there, is increasing at every moment in response to Krishna's increased beauty. And the more beautiful Krishna becomes, the more loving the gopis become. And the more loving the gopis become, that impacts on Krishna's form, and Krishna becomes now more beautiful. And the two of them engage in a competition when none of them accept defeat, he says. So the two of them keep evolving, becoming more beautiful, more attractive, more loving. That's where we are being invited in our tradition. Yeah. So anyhow, that's the penultimate key paradigm shift. God seen as a byproduct of love. Any thoughts before we go to the last one?
It said that man is made in the image of God in the Bible. So,
and I add in this book, God is made in the image of love.
yes.
Thank you for reminding me. I put that in the book. We are made in the image of God. God is made in the image of love.
That also shows the special form, life form of humankind. That the more intimate love becomes, different forms manifest. You have said, the unlimited incarnations of Krishna, and sometimes Krishna appears as animals, or half animal, half man, and so on. And then I was thinking, people are asking, why is Krishna has this color, shyam, and why has his features like Krishna's eyes are in a certain way? Of course, everyone will perceive it in a different way also. But at least we can say Krishna has 5 fingers, he has 2 hands, he has 2 legs, and it's a different, a certain color of his body,
Yeah.
and his hair has a certain color, and so,
it's never the color as we may imagine as a color.
But it is it is a manifestation
Yeah.
of love in this way,
Yeah.
of his reciprocation with love. So this form of Krishna is the most fittest form to share a very intimate relationship.
Yeah. And that's
So-
how we should think of the different forms of the absolute, that they're a particular form to facilitate a type of loving expression, right?
So it's never by chance that Krishna
Yeah,
just-
exactly.
it couldn't be different.
Yeah, and it never began, no? That's the
Yes.
thing. Like, why Krishna is like that? It's not that he chose, okay, from now on I will be like that. It's eternal. There has no beginning, and it's ever evolving. So we have to be careful of, okay, this is Krishna, this is the color of Krishna, this is how he looks. In one sense, it's ever evolving. Yeah, we have the general picture, but we are reading Chaitanya that he's become more beautiful at every moment. So at the same time, yeah, this is a general idea, but on that foundation, that's always becoming ever fresh and ever new. And we cannot think about these things. I mean, you cannot think God. There's this Christian mystic, Mr. Eckhart. He will say, if you can think it, it's not God. I mean, we can use our faculties as much as we can, as we talked the other day, but there's a point that the whole rational mental system is like, I cannot go beyond this. So we need to enter into samadhi, Bhaktivinoda Thakur will say. In samadhi, everything else will be revealed. Yeah.
So we can just experience it. If we are thinking philosophically or something, all these paradox things, and we dive into that without experience.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully all this sharing gives in itself an experience. No, I hope this is not just a merely intellectual stimulation we are having.
It's also
we have intellect for some reason, but also it takes us beyond the intellect, and that informs our practice when we go into chanting or prayer and having an experience, further experience of that. Yeah. Okay, so speaking of paradigm shifts, let's go to the last one, where we will address, we have been speaking about love the whole day, so let's conclude in the personified form of love with Sri Radha, Srimati Radharani, the love's tangible form, the goddess. We have the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Personality of the Goddess. Radha and Krishna, male, female, divine, counterpart, polarities as we were talking. So the last key paradigm shift says divine love as feminine. In the Bhakti tradition, Sri Radha, the Supreme Goddess, embodies the feminine essence of divine love. As the counterwhole of the sweet absolute, she represents love's fullest and most dynamic expression, continuously deepening and expanding in deep evolution. So, yeah, that in itself is a key paradigm shift, to just think of God as she, right? Because like it or not, and let's be honest, many times, at least in our tradition, we tend to go more to Krishna than to Radha. And God is he. But God is he and she. And not he and she in any way that we can think of he and she. Because we have our own filters of what's masculine and feminine. And there is a divine masculine and feminine, but that's not limited to our understanding of masculine and feminine. So that in itself is a paradigm shift, because in many religions, there's a big, still patriarchal orientation, even chauvinistic sometimes. Like God is man and he's powerful and he's almost like a benevolent dictator or something, in many ways. Even in our unconscious, while we hear all the things about Krishna beautifully, in our subconscious still there may be something about that notion of the hyper-masculine divine. But even if we don't want to talk about Radha for a moment, you just look at Krishna. He's so feminine, so vulnerable, as we were talking this day, so moving, so sensitive, So it's not like he's a hyper toxic masculine God, because we can have that projection many times. And of course, we can be also toxically feminine. I mean, you can toxicity in every possibility. So we have to be careful. Oh, I'm feminist, like experiencing Radha, and in a way that is also toxic. So again, Radha and Krishna do not have that problem. We may have those problems, but the divine is both masculine and feminine. But as we know, Radha is a very special personification of love. Now, interestingly, love appears personified in feminine terms. It's with all the host of feminine qualities. And as we were talking, I think yesterday or these days, there's a lot of feminine stuff to integrate in each one of us. And male-bodied devotees included, especially many times. Here's a verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita where it describes this paradox, right? Radha is the full power, Krishna is the possessor of all power, Shakti and Shaktiman. The two are non-different, they are indeed the same, like musk and its scent, or fire and its heat. So again, we're talking about different, but they are not different. How much you can differentiate. Veda Ved. Yet they appear as two for the sake of relishing Lila. So yeah, in this section of the book, the last section of the first chapter is all about Radha. And also how her love, all that we spoke so far about love, how she embodies that and personifies that in the Lila. This, like, I don't know, an insatiable thirst in love. For example, there's a few words that Srila Sridhar Maharaj is saying, paraphrasing, Radha is speaking to Krishna. She says, "Oh, Master, people say that I have a bad reputation because of my connection with you. I feel no trouble in my heart because of this. What troubles me is that I could not fully give myself to you. This is the only trouble within my heart." So again, we are talking about Radha here. If someone gives herself fully to Krishna, it's her, but she feels, I have not given myself fully to you yet. Again, this is this insatiability of love that creates this thirst for more. That's the nature of her love, always expanding. Always expanding. There's another section, I don't recall it where I put it, but Radha's love is complete, yet at the same time, it's always expanding. So, but this is the conclusion of the first chapter, where we speak about bhakti or love, devotion, ultimately personified as the divine goddess, Sri Radha, to whom Krishna himself bends and worships her feet, famously. Let's conclude with this short story that comes to my mind, which is very beautiful at one point. Two stories connected, and I conclude here, I promise. First, we go to the Gita Govinda, which is a very famous text that Mahaprabhu will like to hear in his last years in the Gambhira. And the author of the book, Jayadev Goswami, he's speaking about Radha and Krishna. And at one point, he feels the inspiration to write a line that says, Dehi pada palavam udaram, which means Krishna is falling on the ground to worship the feet of Radha. And he feels, oh, this is too much. I don't think nobody ever wrote this. So maybe I need to, as we did a few minutes ago, maybe I need a break. I need to take some breakfast and go back to writing, because this idea seems too much, to say that God is falling on the feet of Radha and worshiping her. So he goes for a walk or something and returns. And her wife was preparing lunch. So when he returns, he sees her wife having lunch. And it's like, why you didn't wait for me for lunch? And she said, what do you mean? You already came half an hour ago. You had lunch and I'm now having lunch after you. I didn't come half an hour ago. I've been out for 2 hours. No, you came. Yeah, Dave Goswami's like, what's going on? So he had left his manuscript that was writing closed, and now it was open. So he said, you were he asked his wife, "Were you touching my manuscript?" "I didn't touch anything." So he goes and finds that line that he was thinking about writing, but he had thinking about writing, but he hasn't written, but it was written. Dehipada Palavamudara. I bow down to the feet of. So then Jadev Goswami realized, oh, Krishna himself came disguised as me to confirm my realization that I was doubting, and he himself wrote it with his own hands. Yes, I bow down to the feet of love. Now God worships love. That's the God we worship. So that's one story in connection to Radha and love. And the other one in connection to Krishna's bowing to Radha's feet. There's this beautiful Leela in which Krishna is at the feet of Radha surrounded by the gopis, and Krishna is trying to worship the feet. As we worship the feet of Krishna or the Guru, Krishna is worshiping the feet of his Guru, Radha, his love Guru. So he's trying to put flower, but he's so much in ecstasy that he's messing the whole ritual, so to say. It's like if you give me all this to worship the feet of someone, but I'm in ecstasy and the plate starts to fall and the incense is like. So all the gopis are like, Krishna, you're a mess. You are not doing this properly. No, you have to decorate her feet and paint, and you're trembling too much. Of course, out of divine love. But anyhow, after some time, Krishna is composed himself. So he's focused on the feet of the goddess, and he's thinking, wow, those feet are the realm of all good fortune, and I wish to remain in those feet forever. No, that's Krishna's meditation. I want to be a speck of dust at the feet of Radha. How I can do that? So he's pretty smart, Krishna. He's Kalanidhi, which means he's an ocean of artistic creativity. So he thinks, let me do something. So he's painting Radha's feet with lac. I don't know how you call that in German. Like this red dye. Anyhow. So he starts to write his own name in Radha's feet. Okay. Okay. And he's thinking, because Krishna thinking, all the scriptures and all the sages say that my name is not different from me. Right? Abhina Tvam Namanami, no. Between Krishna's name, the name and the named are one. So Krishna says, I would like to reside there forever, but I cannot physically be there. It will be a little impractical, but I will reside there eternally in the name of my name. No? Because it's not different from me. So he starts to write his own name in Radha's feet, like a way of eternally residing there. And then the gopis are like curious, like what is he doing? Because he was supposed to draw some drawings, not write his name. It may feel like narcissistic even, like you're putting you're signing your name in my feet. But they're curious, what is Krishna doing? He's not drawing flowers or this, he's writing his name. And everyone is like charmed. And Krishna then is seeing Radha's feet with him in the form of his name engraved there. And he feels, wow, my name is more fortunate than I. No? And that's another way of praising the name of Krishna. No? For Krishna himself, his name is more fortunate. Now, Rupa Goswami will say, but Krishna and his name are not different. But if you still want to make some difference, is that Krishna's name is more merciful and accessible. And then now Krishna is reflecting back the same thing. Oh, my name is so merciful that it allows me to reside in her feet eternally. Yes, this name is so merciful. So not only we are saying that, Krishna himself is supporting that opinion. So anyhow, some sweet, charming stories. They say, Madhurena samapayet. We have to end with something sweet. At the end, something sweet. In connection to our reflection today on love, on the first chapter of the book, on the key paradigm shifts, hopefully we have a few, inviting us to engage properly in Anartha-nivritti, in the sense of getting rid of false values by incorporating coherent, relatable, commonsensical, and deep, beautifully illuminating, hopefully, ideas and views and what love is like. So we'll put the discussion to rest now, and in the evening we'll have Q&A, question explorations. If you have questions or something related to today's or to any other thing, it's not limited to today's topic. We can continue sharing in the evening. And tomorrow morning, we'll continue with the next chapter, which will be on God. Again, we have already been talking about that, so topics will be interwoven. To see you later. And thank you for those connected online as well. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Sri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Gaur Premanand, Vanchakalpataru Vyascha, Sindhu Vyeva Cha, Ptitanam Pavanevya Vaishnavevya Namo, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.